Hello, everyone. This is Eric Keith, editor-in-chief of the Quintessential Gentleman, and today we are talking to, today, which is Friday, the Shy Friday. We are talking to these gentlemen, Deondray Gossfield and Quincy Gossfield, who are the supervising producers and directors of The Shy. What's going on, my brothers?
What's
What's
up,
going
man?
on, Eric? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How y'all feeling?
We're
Good.
great, man. We're happy to be here.
Good, good. It's a lot of light. So wait, DeAndre, are you in LA? Is everybody, are y'all both in LA?
We're both in
No, we're in
Chicago.
Chicago.
We're in Chicago.
Chicago. Okay, y'all. But are y'all still filming? Y'all filming the next season? Okay, we'll get into it. I'm sorry. Let me
Yeah.
mind my business. All right, sorry. I am super excited to talk with both of you. I have been a fan of The Shy. We have featured Curtis Cook. We have featured
Yeah.
Young Gentlemen. Like, I love The Shy, man. It's so great. And, just before we get started, I want to know, how did you guys get to kind of be a part of the project? DeAndre, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, we did this film with Lena's organization called Rising Voices. We did a short film with them. Quincy and I directed a short film called Flames. It premiered at Tribeca Film Festival, and Lena and her CEO Rishi Rajani was so impressed with the short that they asked us to come and do an episode of The Shy season 5, which led to us becoming producing directors for the whole season, the following season. So yeah, that's pretty much how it came about.
Awesome, awesome. So Quincy, tell me, how was it like? There's already kind of this family, and I think it's a little different from a director's or a producer's perspective, where it's not the same with cast, right? Where you're kind of coming in as this already family and you're kind of finding your groove. I think sometimes when you have the talent that's behind the scenes, I would assume it's a little easier to kind of get into the space, but would love to know how it feels to be a part of something that's already been established and trying to find your groove.
Well, that's something that we're cognitive. What's the word? Saying the wrong word.
Cognizant,
That's something
cognizant.
that cognizant. Look, I haven't had anything to eat yet, but of course, that was something that we were very cognizant of. I think luckily because we got to direct in season 5, and we actually shadowed 2 episodes before we directed. So we were here in Chicago. We got to spend a lot of time on set. We got to really know the cast members, some who we were familiar with or were friendly with, and we really got to know the crew. And what we saw in the crew and the cast of The Shy was that it was really a great family. Like they really were an amazing unit, and they were a joy to work with. They were incredible to work with, and so I think we hit it off. We fit right in. I'm a native Chicagoan, was born and raised here, so that was probably a plus. Because a lot of the cast and the crew are native Chicagoans, and it's a language that we speak. And then DeAndre has been in Chicago for years and years, since we've been together for 30 years. And my family's here. So, he's spent a lot of time here. It's his second home. And I just think that, we came in humbly. We came in to play ball. We came in to be team players. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't come in like, hey, it's about to be our way. And it was like, no, let's understand like how they work, and just really contribute to something that was already rolling and beautiful, and see how we can help make it even better. And I think in season 6, of course, everybody is kind of like, okay, wait, these guys just directed an episode. We had fun with them, but wait, they coming in now like as producing directors. Like, it was a big, big, big leap, from directing to producing directing, and then later supervising producing. And I think that they trusted us. I think they trusted us. We're always honest. We're always upfront. We're always collaborative. We're the type of people that we don't lead with fear. We lead with support and encouragement. And we wanted to have a two-way conversation, not like I talk to you but you talk to us. So you let us know how you guys are feeling about things. What are some of your ideas? And let's see what we can do together to, continue to elevate this show. And I think it's been great. It's been a great ride. And when I tell you we are family on and off screen, we really are family on and off screen. It's a
I love
great, great family to work with.
Was there any pressure? So, we're talking, you guys are now 7 seasons, God renewed 8 season, look at God. But even going back to like the fifth, the 5 seasons, we don't have those frequently like we used to, especially a series that centers around Black people, right?
Right.
Was there any pressure to make sure that we're keeping the storylines interesting? Of course, I would assume there's always pressure just in terms of you want to get people to watch, but now it's like the stakes are higher every time you have a new season. There's always another, I would say, a little pain point, right, where you have to kind of keep it going. I'll ask anybody to jump in. Just any pressure specifically with that?
I think, yeah, yes, absolutely. Luckily, me and Quincy don't have the big burden of coming up with all the stories. That's Lena Waithe, our two showrunners, Jewel and Justin. They're the ones that have to get in that think tank and really like, oh my gosh, now what are we gonna do? What's the stories like now? I think the good thing though is Lena is really cognizant. Quincy throwback, cognizant
Cognizant.
of our audience. So she does listen. And so, she kind of takes the temperature of our viewers and she kind of weaves that into our storyline so that, she can kind of tell what the audience is sort of wanting. Now, she doesn't give them exactly what they expect because that's no fun. But she does get like the general themes of the things that they want to see, and she gives it to them. Every season, I admire our writers' room for the way they kind of dig in and they take the temperature and they scour the internet for like what's everybody saying, how did this episode, how was this received, and then they come back into their think tank and they weave this quilt. And every time we're just like, wow, how did you
Yeah.
make those threads? How did you make those connections? But the pressure is definitely on. I mean, I think if
Yes.
you get too comfortable in your success, I think that's where you start to lose, the creative battle. I think it's always a battle to kind of keep people engaged and keep them watching. And if you start to get too comfortable, I think you lose the war. So yeah,
Yeah.
we everybody that's on our team, from the writers to the production assistant, we every time we step foot on that set, we know we have something to say, something to prove, and we're all working really hard to basically, keep everything fresh
Hmm.
and engaging.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to that because Lena, just as an artist, as a person, she's like a purveyor of culture. And I mean, a lot of people may notice that. I mean, if you just stop and listen to this woman talk, she is a treasure trove of information, of history, of Black history, of art and culture, and she really stays in tune with the community and the direction in which we're moving and the relevance topics that affect us in our community. And I think that's what feeds her as an artist. And she digests that information. And she's not someone. It's funny to me because it's like there's some people who create in a void, right? So they write about things that they're no longer really a part of, and they're removed from. And I feel like, Lena's out there. She's out there doing the work. She's out there in the community, and that comes through in her writing. And I think that relevance in the storylines that she creates with the showrunners and the writers is what people are connecting to. There's a humanity in it. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to find the humanity in your story, because once you reach that humanity, that's what people are drawn to. That's what they see themselves in these characters. They see themselves in these situations. And again, we have to say we don't have anything to do with the storylines, but we're always like, damn, she's really on to something. You know, she was when you see the response from the episodes and the stories, like when we're reading the blogs, we're reading the people online, you know, we're reading the comments. It's just like she always finds a way to really tap into a zeitgeist. And I think that's the brilliance of Lena Waithe is the ability to tap into that zeitgeist, the black zeitgeist.
And you may not be responsible for the storylines, but you're responsible for the execution and
Oh
how
gosh.
we are able to receive those. Because we all, everyone on this call knows you've seen some really execute things, but the words didn't really do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Then you got some words that are beautiful, but yeah, you didn't execute it properly, right? So there is really it's very immersive and it has to work together. And you guys are able to do that so well. And I want to know, how do you, as co-directors, co-producers, how do you work together on being able to execute some, not some, most all of these kind of these lines and these scripts?
Well, we have a real extensive prep process. So it's me and
Okay.
Quincy. We get the script, we separate, and we go break it down scene by scene. You know, we come up with like, first of all,
Collectively, right? So like it's not like you take this one, you is it you both
The
no,
whole
have
collective,
script.
the whole script, but we
The whole
separate.
script.
We don't do it together. We
okay.
because child, but we do it separately. And
We
you
know our
know,
limits. We know our
we know our
limits.
limits.
Yeah.
We know how we work, and this is we've been working together for. I think we've directed basically everything together. Quincy's done some stage plays alone, but I think everything we've done for this film and screen has been both of us. So we have a language, and
Okay.
so we get the scripts, we separate, we break them down, and so we come up with like themes. You know, what are the overarching themes? Where are the characters going? Where's the mood shift? And how can we tell this visually? You know, okay, this character starts off in this scene as, you know, kind of contemplative, and by the end they're powerful. How do we show that visually? So we'll come up with, you know, some ideas for all the scenes. We bring them back together. We come back together and start comparing and contrasting. And usually about 90, I'm not kidding, about
About
98% of what we
90%.
come up with agree. They're like the same idea.
The same
So,
things.
same exact thing. And then there's that 2%. So sometimes that 2%, like it's like, you know, it's
Like
like
this. It's like we gotta,
but sometimes
come on.
it's like an obvious win. Like I'll be like, oh yeah, that's better. I mean, there's no even argument with that. That's really good, or vice versa. But then there's that small percentage that we're like, well, I really think mine is the one. And he's like, no, no, we should do it like this. So what ends up happening, and we've told this story before, we will literally get on each of us, because both of us can shoot too. We will get on our iPhones and shoot out a sequence, the one that, you know, our own sequences, and we put them up against each other. Like, this is what I meant.
Edit
This
it
is how it's supposed to
together
look.
and
Edit
then
it to
show him
everything and
like
show, and
this is
then,
what
you
the
know,
sequence will look like.
Yeah.
and then like
And then
put
the
them head
best
to
man
head.
wins.
Yeah.
Because
And usually,
I won't even say the best man wins because we like to say it we're trying to serve the story. So
Mhm.
if that idea in the end best serves the story,
then
that's
that's
the
what
only thing that's
wins.
important. Ego aside, like okay, you got this one because that
And then
actually is better
there's
for the
still those
story.
times where we can't agree, which is better for the story. And so what ends up happening in those situations is either we scrap both ideas and start from scratch, or we merge the two that we have. And then we're
Okay.
like, oh, what if we do that in this? And
Okay.
so yeah, so that's pretty much how we work. It's very extensive prep so that by the time we get on set, we're not contradicting each other. You know, even as we run the sets, like, you know, when we every day we're on a different energy level. So if one day I'm like on 2 and he's got 10 in the morning, I'm like, handle it. I'll be back here. And then vice versa. And then also like we have producing duties too. So sometimes while we're shooting, there's another director that needs our attention, or another, you know, piece of the crew that needs our attention. So we'll tag team like, hey, you know, let me take this phone call really quick. You got this, and remember the da 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 da. And he's like, yeah, yeah. And then checking in with each other while the other one like gets on the phone and handles some fire that's burning. So yeah, it's very much a tag team
Yeah.
effort.
And that's mostly like when it's our individual episode that we're directing. But before the season begins, we are a part of the whole creative process of the overall visual arc, emotional arc of the whole series. Although we're not writing it, we get the storylines, we get the beats, we get the season beats. We know, at least the ups and downs and the direction that it's going in. Lena always has ideas about how she wants the season to feel this season. This season is about the women, or this season is about the men, or, this season is about this or that. And I really want it to feel this or that. And, we get all this information and we process it and we create what's called a season lookbook. So it's a style guide, and that style guide is how we want certain camera movements. It's not specific for like to tell directors how they need to direct, but hey, this is the tone and this is the direction of the season, so we want you to play within this world. This is the lighting style that we're going for. We want more high contrasty, this season is more high contrasty, light and dark. We're playing with shadows. We're playing with grit. We're playing with texture. This is a dark season versus like this might be a light, more loving season. So, we're going a little bit softer here when there, and these are the color, the color thing. So like we literally create this really extensive booklet style guide, and we also work with our DP at the beginning of every season, visually, like, okay, these are the visuals, and they bring, of course, their expertise to the table. Like, oh, have you seen this? Like, we'll be looking at art. We'll take references from like photography. I mean, there's so many references that we draw from, and we put all that together, and we actually have to pitch that to the network.
Mm-hmm. And to Lena.
First, and to Lena. Mm-hmm. First to Lena. And then if Lena approves and Hillman Grad approves, then we take it to Showtime. And so then, Showtime is either like yay or nay, or we want to move a little bit of, we haven't had any nays yet, which is a good thing. They've been really, really happy with, the lookbooks. And then that book then is shared with every director that comes onto the show. Even if we're not directing an episode, they at least have a guideline, and then we're also there to make sure that things stay within those
the creative
guidelines.
Parameters. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The other thing
we let the directors be creative, but it has to stay within, these parameters.
The other thing that we'll do as well is like, so the lucky thing we have is we have a show that's been going forever. So our actors know who they are. So there's not a lot of, performance directing. But one thing we do is like when we're starting to see our scripts come through and we're noticing like there's a certain scenes that require like unorthodox performance from them that they're not used to. We'll have those conversations. Like we'll get them on a Zoom or we'll send an email like, hey, we really would hope to hit these beats in this scene. What do you think? And it's a collaborative effort, and the actor gives us some feedback, and we're sort of seeing it like this. How are you seeing it? So that when we get to set, they've sort of prepared their instrument for like what they know we might ask for, or what we've talked about that they want to do. So there's a lot of that as well. So it's like kind of digging out, like I think Quincy and I really wanted to like, we saw some really great actors on the show, and I just wanted to dig just a little bit deeper in some of their performances. So we've been having a lot of one-on-one conversations with some of our actors about how to get to those beneath the surface of the performance. And they're really great and really receptive. And I think they kind of like that, we're also interested in their process and like watching and care about, how they're coming across on screen. So it's been a really great collaborative effort since we came on the show.
No, that's amazing. And we can definitely tell as a viewer. That's amazing. And I think about, you said something about kind of going back to like your sequences. And I believe, let's start here, season 6 finale. First of all, Douda, the way he's written, the way he is how he's portrayed. First of all, it's like there's moments when it's like, I'm Douda. I'm trying to be Douda. You see, boss on it, like And then this other part of it
Right.
is like, whoa, 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 not too much. Like we can't do too much. You're just going off the ledge a little bit. But he, to me, is someone I just haven't seen in a very long time. His character, I haven't
Mm.
seen it very, like he's so complex. He's a bad guy, sure, but there's always these moments, and it's not like it's once in a blue. There's a continuous moment that reminds you of either humanity or thing that he actually cares and things like that. But also understood why he had to go. Sorry, guys, this is a spoiler. If you have not watched season six, it's sorry for you. Turn it off. Um, but I believe that finale was that one of the times that you both had different sequences and then you merged them together for the season finale of that, or kind of if it wasn't, what was the process of kind of ending that particular story and how did you go about showing that ending?
Well, I think the original writing called for those. It was all the same sequences. And we didn't shoot anything that wasn't on the page. It's just that the way we cut it together in the end, we felt was a more dramatic, juxtaposition. So originally, there was supposed to be a sequence of Alicia finding her son Rob on the steps as a sequence totally played out, and then there was a sequence of Nook embracing his son at the end, and they were supposed to be two totally different sequences that played, from
Separately,
beginning to
individually.
end.
Right.
And so we decided that it was more meaningful to kind of show a juxtaposition, which it was always written that way, but like in real time, like we see, if we see Alicia embracing her son, and then we see Nook embracing his as one is being lost, and then this is a new son he's found, and he's actually the killer of the son in the other scene. We thought, oh, it's such a better dynamic than just letting the audience like see as we one person is a complete loss, life devastated, and then this other person has gained a child, and then the person that's gained a child is the person that killed the other person's child. It just was just so much more meaningful. So and then Duda. Look, what I love about Curtis Cook is, that's just who he is in person. He is this giving, caring person, but he's also really strong about his acting, and he's very serious when it comes to his work, and so
His
he's very
craft.
much, yeah, his craft. He's very much like he's Duda-esque, except he's not a criminal. Um, and uh, and he's just incredible to work with. I think what I love about the way Lena and the writers write these characters is just like any character. I think that's what this show is ultimately about, is that you can peg someone as the villain, and then as you start to pick off those layers, you start to realize there is still a human underneath there. And there may be a reason, which is usually the case in a lot of villains in the
Hmm.
hood, is that there is a real reason. There's a survival instinct that is there that is really causing them to do the things that they otherwise would not do. So when you start to peel
Hmm.
back the layers of Duda, you start to realize, wait a minute, this guy did this as a means to an end. This wasn't a means. This was a means to an end. You watch him as his character develops throughout the seasons, he takes care of Jake, he nurtures him, he's trying to protect Jake from the streets and be this
He opens
surrogate
up
father.
the rock center, for the
Absolutely.
community.
But at the same time, is he going to shoot you in the face if you cross him? Yes. So
Pretty much.
um, and so, it was a bittersweet thing because yes, it had time for Duda to meet his end, but Duda was such a representation of this dichotomous nature of the hood villain. And I think he gave a lot of voice to why some people, some men especially, decide to go down this path as a means to an end. And it was a really hard character to let go
Yeah.
of because he was the villain you loved to hate and love. You
Yeah.
loved him and you
Yeah.
hated him.
That cognitive dissonance that Deondray was talking about, which is so funny. Just last night, I was talking to my little sister, and we were discussing a cousin of ours who, is now passed away, but he was a notorious gangster in Chicago. He was a very prominent gang member, and kind of notorious, but he was the most loving person you could ever meet, which is crazy to say. You know what I mean? Like when it came to his block, it came to our block that we grew up on, it came to his family, it came to his nieces and nephews, his brothers, sisters, and his cousins. Like he would do anything to protect us, to protect you. Things that you probably didn't agree with, but like his love and support did not go unnoticed by the people he loved and loved him. But he had this street side where it was like, unfortunate. And I see that I saw that in Douda. And one of the scenes in that episode that I really loved, and it was cut, it's a little brief, but it's when Douda is alone before Thanksgiving or during Thanksgiving, and he is contemplating suicide. He's cleaning his gun and he's alone, and it's just that light behind him, and he's in silhouette, and you see him kind of having a very, very human moment for a character like Douda, where you don't know what's about to happen. And I feel like he was feeling the weight of all of his decisions in that moment. And Curtis, when I tell you Curtis performed the hell out of that moment, like it was edited in our rough draft much longer because we really wanted to live in it a lot longer. But when he finished, when we called cut, there was not a dry eye in the room. There was literally not a dry eye in the room. We felt it so heavily. And we really hope that, the audience was able to feel that moment too. And again, just the complicated character, the human, that there's this guy and then there's this guy, and the two are always warring. And like I said, Curtis Cook, like you said, Curtis is such an amazing actor. And yeah, it hurt. It hurt. You know what I mean? It hurt to have to say goodbye. But again, story wise, we understand it. Not everybody on the Shy gets to stay.
I don't know. People we thought was coming back, but
Lena be on her Game of Thrones. Just when you think you're safe, you're like, dang. But isn't that life? Isn't
That's
that life? You know what I mean? And especially life in the streets.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
there you go.
And, we're here, season 7 broke streaming records, right? Just with the introduction, first episode, and just continues to be one of the network's most watched series. And I want to know, going into this next chapter, what are you like? What's the vision for it? If we're talking, 30,000 feet in the air, going into this already having so much from the past, but what when you now that we're seeing it, you guys have already created on your end. What was the vision going into it?
Going
Into
into
season
8?
7.
Season 7.
Oh,
Oh
7.
yeah. Just to keep, I think it was just to build on the momentum we had gotten from season 6. I think a lot of like these large story arcs were coming to an end, and when you end an arc, there has to be some payoff. It has to, like not to say it has to end with a bang, but it does. It has to reverberate. It can't just be. It can't fizzle out. It has to something that end has to give birth to something even more complicated and new. And I think what our writers were really wanting to do was that as we're ending all of these story arcs that have lasted across seasons, what did they give birth to?
Hmm.
What new power structures are being created by these dying power structures? And how is that still interesting? So we had to go into it so that the show still felt fresh. I think the writers were determined, Lena was determined to make sure, though we're coming to some very, clear endings, these whole new things have been born out of that. And oh my gosh, they're even more interesting than the ride we've been on. So I think that was the energy. I mean,
Hmm.
and I think our viewers are telling us, this still feels fresh. It feels like, oh my gosh, now we're on this whole other ride that and love the fact that how they so carefully did it so that it doesn't feel like jarring. It's married to all the stories we've been on. They don't feel like out of the blue. It's almost like, oh
Disconnected, right?
yeah, you start to find these threads like, oh my gosh, that was, baby
Right.
shower
It's the baby
episode
shower
where
episode.
we find out that that the professor and his wife are the parents
Lost a
of
son.
the son that Keisha dated and
See,
committed, took his own life. So it's
Yeah.
like all these threads that you sort of like every time you think like there's a storyline that sort of takes a pause, there's this amazing payoff later if the audience would just wait. Because I know we read the comments and they're like, what?
yeah.
I'm telling you, our writers are geniuses, and they will circle back. Just give it a little while. So I love the fact that there's all of these new stories being born out of all of these. Like this guy, he just disappeared, but then you find out the whole reason that the professor and his wife are on this journey of community journey is because they lost a son, and it's the
And now
son that Keisha used to date,
yeah, and
and
he's seeing in Bakari what he lost in his son, and he
that's
wants
right.
to save this young man. So
Yeah.
yeah, those threads are all there. And I will add that we came into season 7 with with the understanding that Beyonce is watching.
That part.
Right. All right.
We all got a direct call from Lena letting us know Beyonce is watching. So we gotta knock this out the park.
Understood. Assignment understood. Good.
We
Um,
understood what that meant. We understood what
right.
that meant.
And talking about legends and icons, every time I see the beautiful Lynn Whitfield,
In Whitfield.
I it's just and it's like it's just perfect. It is just everything that she does, good or bad, perfect, perfection. And I just want to know, what is it like working with her specifically this season?
Well,
Man, go ahead, Quincy.
it's a masterclass.
Hmm.
It's a masterclass. Like me and Deondray, we began as actors. We've been actors, for most of our adult lives. But to sit and witness the magic that is Miss Lynn Whitfield and the history, the studied history. She's just not someone who walked in off the streets who had some raw talent. Like this is that, she brings that old school commitment and, you studied theater, you studied dance, like you're in touch with your body because you were a dancer. Like everything about her instrument is under her control. And every actor, young actor on the show who doesn't have that length of experience, all have said after working with her in the scene, I feel like I had to rise to the occasion. I feel like I'm a better actor just from observing her and working with her. You would watch her be Lynn when she steps into the scene. When we're not rolling, that's Lynn. That's Auntie. That's what I mean. And once you say action, it's like she's possessed. It's like something comes into her, and she becomes someone else. And she's a perfectionist, which we love. And sometimes she's like, I'm not comfortable with that performance, or I'm not comfortable with that take. Can I try another one? So we always, of course, say yes. She will give us like 3 or 4 takes, completely, absolutely different than the last. And each one is brilliant. And we're like, wow. In the edit, we're going to have a really hard decision to make to just choose which one of these moments we want to go with, because each one is as brilliant as the last. But each one also says something a little different about the moment. So which do we, want to go with? So yeah, it was definitely, it's been a absolute joy. Again, a childhood fan of Miss Lynn Whitfield, and to be able to work with her is one of my greatest honors as well. So
It was incredible, and then and add on to that is as incredible and as much of a genius as she is, she's still open to suggestion. And
mhm.
I have never, I mean, I've worked with a lot of actors. I've worked with some great actors that are great too. But when usually those actors at that caliber, it's more of it's a little rougher. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's a and she was an open book. She sought out direction, which was
Exactly.
very refreshing. She'd
Yeah,
come to
she'll
you and
let you know
ask
if she
you.
feel like, are you going to direct me?
She'd come to you
You
and
know?
ask you like, "Hey, what can I do better? What do you think?" And I'm like, "What you said?" And I'm thinking everything I'm seeing is already brilliant. I mean, the crazy thing about Lynn, she's so good that the way she picks up a glass means something. If she's drinking
Hmm.
a cocktail, the way she holds the cocktail means something. There's all this subtext in her
All
performances that
intentional.
there's all this stuff and she's very intentional. Like, I don't want to pick this up from that table because that will mean this. I should pick it up from my side because I want to look like I'm aloof, so it's all that stuff that gives her that incredible presence on screen. And she was a master class for me too. I mean, she gives, all of us, the whole team, all this credit. I'm like, but you are literally walking us through how some things are okay and how come some
Hmm.
things are brilliant. And it was just, I'm so thankful and grateful to be working with her. She's like no other.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So, the shy doesn't shy away from storytelling LGBTQ plus storylines, but recently, now I think it spilled a little bit from season six. Now we're into season seven, and we have this um example of a gay couple, male couple that's more masculine than we see presented in many roles and things like that on TV when it comes to Deondray and Quincy, played by Jabari Reed and Thomas Mackey. Um, I love the representation. I want to know what kind of went into. I mean, they're named after you, so I'm gonna say y'all had a little bit of a little bit of a say in there. But I wanted to see, one, why was it important to, kind of represent all of, that particular community, and then also just how I felt to be able to articulate it in such a way.
That was born out of a conversation me and Quincy were having with Lena about, just having some gay characters on the show. And the DeAndre Quincy, that was Lena's idea.
It was all Lena.
We're trying to, talk about, representation on the show for gay people because it's been hot. We've had trans, we've had lesbian, we've had gay
Lesbian,
characters in the periphery, but no
bisexual characters.
no characters that are like up front in the camera. So she was down. And then her wheels spun and she came up with these characters and then she called us and was like, I'm gonna name them DeAndre and Quincy. I was like, oh Lord. So
And they're
because
gonna be a couple.
her thing
Like,
was I wanna see if I'm gonna do gay characters, I want to go down a road less traveled. I want to do characters like y'all. I want to do characters. I want to see what I see in y'all. This committed, gay couple that is a part of the community. It's not about them being gay. It's about their personal struggles. It's about how their lives intertwine with the lives of our characters on the show. It's not really about their sexuality. That should be just the backdrop. I want them to be like you guys are, a part of your communities, part of your families, actually, participating in life decisions for the ones you love. I don't want them to be sort of these caricatures of you know, the lifestyle, so to speak. She said, I want them real. I want them authentic. I want them to be like y'all. So that was how that came about. I was really happy that she was receptive to even adding them. And so, but she's like, if I'm going to add them, they have to be this. So yeah, that's where they came from.
Amazing, amazing. So running out of time here, but I do want to know, just, we had season 8 is confirmed. Super excited for it. I know we not getting no information from you about season 8. Not that was season 7, so even if you told, it ain't even gonna matter. But I do want to know, in terms of the responsibility. We talked a little bit about the pressures, but I do want to know about the responsibility, of just kind of keeping this story going, or the storytelling, the characters, and how you're kind of thinking about moving into the next season.
Wow. You know, the weight of responsibility when you're trying to tell stories that are authentic and truthful, especially for our community, is always there. You know what I mean? Like it's not something that we ever can just brush off our shoulders and like, hey, we just gonna have fun. Like I think we're artivists. Lena's an artivist. She's an artist, but she's an activist. And I think, the whole reason, like I mean, she said it herself, like she was inspired by shows like A Different World, The Cosby Show. These were pivotal Black series in the 80s that actually helped move the culture forward. And so as a creative, very much like me and Deondray, when we created the DL Chronicle, we didn't just create a show about gay men just because we wanted to have a fun show about gay men. We wanted to tackle a subject, and a community that we felt was misunderstood or was coming under fire. We wanted to breathe truth into our stories. And so everything we do, it comes from that perspective. And I don't know if it's just who we are as people. It's hard. So, now we're aligned with Lena, who is very much the same. And I think, we all on this show, everybody involved, and even the people who were from Chicago, who are our crew, feel the responsibility to tell authentic stories about, communities in Chicago that are often, misunderstood, misrepresented in the media. Chicago, Chirac, and it's crazy, this and that. And, yeah, that's there. But then there's all this other beauty, and coming from here, being a native, having grown up here, I've seen every side of life in Chicago. And overall, it's a beautiful place, and it's filled with loving people, and communities that create family, whether they're their biological family or their chosen family. And Lena's from Chicago. And I think she probably, as a young woman, always wanted to tell the stories of her community, of our community. And so yeah, it's like it's a welcome weight. It's not like, oh, I'm scared, or it's so it's so hard, so heavy to try to tell these stories. It's like, no, we want to. We're encouraged. We're inspired to. And our cast and our crew, just the response that the community has, in to them, like it just feeds back into our motivation. You know what I mean? Like the love from the audience just it feeds us and inspires us to keep telling these great stories and to make sure that these stories are authentic, like they're authentic. And
Yeah, so it's good. Yeah.
go ahead, you go ahead.
No, I
I
was
think
gonna
I'm
say,
running on with that, but go ahead.
no, that was it. That was it. I was just going to add that I think the only pressure that I could extract from any of it is that the people continue to see them. The audience continues to see
Hmm.
themselves. Chicago continues to see itself and love itself. I think that is the goal, and I think that is the struggle. I mean, if it's a struggle, I'm just saying if there's any pressure there, it's just to
Right.
make sure that these people continue to have, that Chicago continues to have its voice heard, it continues to see itself, and it continues to fall in love with itself through the lens of this show.
Oh, amazing. I tweeted this last episode, maybe 2 episodes ago, where I said, if I could just be a part of the Shy's party, if it's the baby shower, the cookout, even I could be a chaperone at one of the dances. It is so, I mean, it is so much fun. Y'all are having so much fun. And I'm like, just one time, I could be an extra in the back. Just, it's so much fun.
Oh,
Love,
Come
I
on
love
down,
it.
man. We
oh,
got
we
you. Come
all
on
we
down.
always need background actors. So
Perfect.
yes,
Just call.
that's
Listen, I'll
done.
be the day in the life behind the scenes. I got y'all. Don't
Hey,
worry about it. Turn it into
come
a PA.
on,
But
come on.
no, I think it's done entirely well. And like you said, the relatability. Not, I've never been to Chicago. I want to go to Chicago, but every time I get the opportunity to go to Chicago, it's during the months when it's cold, and I refuse to do that. But I just
Smart
I
man. Smart man.
I think that the stories that's being told and how they're being told is so well done, and I just keep looking forward. I
Yeah,
keep continue to promote it. I'm all on
Thank
board,
you.
and this was amazing. This was a great conversation. Thank you both. And
Thank you.
I'll add just a little thing, and that is it also has a universality. So yes, it's about Chicago, but this is about every inner city black neighborhood in America as well. There's a theme that connects all
Yeah.
of them. So though this is
Yeah.
based in the backdrop of Chicago, I'm from South Central LA. I resonate with the characters the same way. So
Yeah.
definitely has a universality to it, and I think that's what people are responding to.
And
and
shout
I
out to our
like
amazing
people.
writers.
And I also I feel that people, even if they don't, not from the inner city, they're getting a glimpse of what it's like, and and they're like discovering and learning things. I
Right.
think the show does a very good job at also providing knowledge to things. May it be the community, may it be specific, like how things are happening, how things kind of work in a particular world. It's very, like I said,
The humanity. It's the humanity. Everybody
Yeah.
loves, everybody has loss, everybody has regrets, everybody has aspirations. And this show captures that, yeah, in the backdrop of inner city Black Chicago. But if you're a human on this planet, you felt what these characters felt. And that's the goal, to reach through all of the things that divide us to the things that connect us. And we're just happy that you guys are loving it and feeling it.
perfect, perfect. Well, thank you all for chatting. Everyone that tuned in, we appreciate you, and make sure you are keeping up with the Shy. And then it's season 8, baby. We already know. Once season 8
Ooh.
comes, we gotta look for season 9. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll
Your
talk
words to
soon.
God's ears.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All
Thank you.
right.